Welcome back to season 5 of the RAG podcast. We've taken a little break. We've had a break since June 2021. It's now October 2021, and we are back with a bigger and better season than ever before. After 200 episodes, over 2.5 years, a global pandemic, we've interviewed some of the biggest names in the recruitment sector and told so many stories of startup to scale up growth. We're coming back, but we're a little bit different. You know, over the last year, my life personally has changed dramatically. I've gone from someone who lived in London, worked in an office with my team, and then was catapulted into this new world where my relationship's broken down. I left London, my business went remote. I felt like I lost touch with who I was physically, mentally, emotionally, and I spent the last year working on myself. I think recording some of the episodes of the show has helped me, but also I've invested in coaches and support, a support network to help me get back on track. But every single time I've spoken about it to recruitment owners, my client base, I've just heard too many people agree that they've had the same experience. Too many people have struggled with 4 key areas of life, and that's maintaining their daily habits of performance at work, running a business where all they do is serve others, at the same time trying to be the best person to their family, their friends, their spouse, their loved ones, being the best father, husband, whatever, mother, sister, daughter, whatever it is they want to be. So many people have lost track of their mental and physical health. They've not got any routine to keep optimal in that area. And finally, when it comes to self-improvement, hobbies, interests, growth, that's just about you as an individual. That is something that so many of us as recruitment entrepreneurs and business entrepreneurs, we just struggle with. You know, we serve other people all the time and we forget. So this season, it's going to be different. I'm going to be interviewing still the brightest minds, the biggest names in the recruitment sector, but I'm going to be talking about the daily entrepreneurial habits and the way in which they optimize their life in those 4 key areas. How do they do it? Some people will tell stories of success. Others will share when they've dramatically failed. But together, I want to be bringing to you a story every single Thursday live on LinkedIn, and then Mondays on Apple and Spotify, where you can learn and you can empathize and connect to stories that are similar to yours. And hopefully, if you can just take one nugget of information from every single episode, then, you know, I've done my job. So without further ado, let's get into today's show. Hello and welcome. Right, we are live. We are live on LinkedIn, and I'm back. Season 5. We are back. Today, I am excited to be live on LinkedIn and joined by Mark Znowski. Mark, for the first episode of season 5, is someone I connected to in earlier in the summer. I think we actually spoke when England were in the Euros semi-finals for the first time.
Yeah, we were excited. We were excited then.
We were really excited, and we've been in touch ever since. Now, I'm going to let Mark do an introduction in a moment, but he's a very well-known guy in the industry. One of the founders of Staffgroup, which, if you don't know, we're an incredible business that was sold after, I think, 12 or so years after Mark was involved from the start. You know, I want to get into Mark's story in just a moment. Now, before I do, I want to mention 2 of our sponsors this season. You know these guys already, right? So I just want a quick word about the guys at Odro. You know, you can see the logo below. Odro are friends of Hoxo. We've worked with them now for a long time. And I was recently at the Talent International Tech Start Awards in London. I put a lot of stuff up on LinkedIn about me being there and being involved in it. Anyway, we lost both awards at Hoxo, which was a bit of a shame. But Odro got a clean sweep. Everything they entered, they won it. Ryan McCabe took home an award as CEO of the year. And then I know they went to the Recruiter Awards and they won Best Innovation. So they're absolutely flying as an organization. I'm proud that they sponsored the RAG again for another season. But what I wanted to let you guys know is that they are hiring. So they are growing in their sales and customer success teams, and they're looking for recruiters to join the business. They only hire people from a recruitment background in those roles. So if you're interested and you're listening, get in touch with Dougie Lone on LinkedIn, and Dougie's the Chief Revenue Officer, or email recruitment@odro.co.uk. Second on the list of sponsors today are Vincere, the number one all-in-one platform effectively for recruitment that connects back, middle, and front office teams.
it started off as a CRM and it's evolved so much. Now, if you're thinking about moving CRMs or you're thinking about starting a business with a CRM, I just honestly, from my experience now of dealing with over 2,000 recruiters in the market every single week, there's no one who comes close. So get in touch with these guys. And if you would like to get a discount, if you're a RAG listener, they'll give you an amazing deal. All you need to do is go on www.vincere.io/RAG. Mention that'll notify them that you've got a relationship with the RAG podcast, and you'll get a great deal. Right, let's get into today's show. Mark, welcome.
Hi, Sean. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm absolutely fine. I'm delighted to be back. This feels different. It feels like I don't know. I've had a really long break. I stopped recording in June. I think it's the longest I've ever done since I started the show. So I feel like I've had a rest. How's life for you as we've now come out of the summer?
Yeah, it's good actually. I really like September and October. I think partly because my kids are back at school. But it's no, I'm really good. Looking forward to doing this. I missed your podcast not over the summer because they were a key companion in my dog walks that I used to walk around the countryside. So no, I'm all good.
Well, look, I'm delighted to have you on the show. As I've mentioned quite a lot, this season's going to be different. But we still want to know about you. So just give us an overview of who you are and what your, I guess, the bird's eye view of Mark Znowski for people.
Yeah. So I'm mid-40s, been living in Sussex near the Ashdown Forest. I have been in recruitment all my working life, from literally before graduation, starting at S3. And worked there for a few years, like a lot of other people who've gone on to set up recruitment companies. And I set up Staffgroup with Paul Flynn in 2003. Paul, I think, has been on your show before.
He has.
Good guy. And I exited that business with Paul in 2015 at the very end of the year. Had a little bit of a break, and then set up EngTal with Chris Attia, and that was a very end of 2017. Really started in Jan 18, and that is a recruitment company based in Chicago. We've got some people in Dallas, in Texas, and I've got a few people in the UK who are waiting for the visa situation and the embassy to open up so they can move in earnest. But EngTal is a staffing company that specializes only in the US, and all we do is the US. No real interest in anything else. We work on the tech space, sort of partnering with startups, more established firms, placing typically gifted graduates who have got the world at their feet, if you like, around the East Coast, Midwest, and the west of the US. We also do a little bit of engineering as well, which is actually what we started doing, and then COVID forced a little bit of a pivot to the tech space. So yeah, that's really what we do. I think we've got 25 people, including me, at EngTal, and that business is going really well.
Where did your journey with Staffgroup end? Was it with the exit, or did you leave earlier?
No, it ended with the exit. We stuck. Paul and I stuck around for a bit longer to help everything with the transaction. Although we didn't particularly have to, but we wanted to. And so yeah, that ended tail end of 2015, and we sold to Gordon Group, which is a reasonably high profile deal, I think, at the time. And then then I thought that was it. I was done with recruitment, to be honest with you.
I always wonder this, when you exit a business and I imagine you made a considerable amount of money that was life changing. What motivates you then to get back into? I mean, why work again? Why not just chill out and just have time? It was
a really weird one. So we sold in the winter. As we sold in the summer, but we exited the business in winter.
Yeah.
And Paul and I often joke about that being we got our timing a little bit wrong because it was miserable weather-wise. And so I thought I knew what I wanted to do when I sold the business, and I actually realized I didn't know myself as well as I thought I did at the time. So you bought properties, you thinking right, I'm going to just do absolutely nothing, but for the rest of my life, and just live off the rental income, invest in stock markets with advisors, that sort of thing, invest in a couple of other non-recruitment companies. I did all that, but honestly, the year after I sold, I was flat. I was miserable.
Really?
Yeah, the feeling you have the money in your bank account, you think it's great, but for me, it created a few questions. That I just turned 40. I mean, I literally was 40 years of age in a few months, and I'm thinking, okay, you'd like to think you've got you're halfway through life, or near enough. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? And so many of the investments I made were fundamentally passive investments. You buy a house, you rent it out, you get rent every single month. There isn't a massive amount left to do unless there are problems and stuff. And you invest in a company, but a lot of people they want your money. They say that there's other expertise that you've got, but a lot of crap, to be honest with you. They just want your money. And whether it succeeds or fails isn't really down to you at all.
Right.
So I missed
what you're saying.
recruitment.
Were you missing like the control element then? Like it's like
I was.
You'd lost control. Like
The influence.
you had the influence of what you were in the driving seat, and then suddenly your money's going elsewhere. Yeah, all right, you're living comfortably, but you've lacking influence.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a recruitment company, and I think we had 120 headcount at Staffgroup, roughly speaking, when we exited. It's quite a privileged situation, and the reality is, life in that company when you get to that size is easier, in my opinion, than when you are 15, 20 headcount, because you've got department heads who are running the operations, running the compliance, running the office, running the sales functions, running the various offices that you might have around the world. And your day is really managing them. And, Paul and I would do that together. But they're pretty good. They're pretty competent. They know what they're doing. So I think it gets, and I still think this, it does get easier as you get bigger. The hard bit, and for people running recruitment companies now, is that for me it's 10 to 20 headcount. When you've got to scale up, you've got to be able to back off a little bit and let other people have time to flourish or fail. That's the harder bit, I think. So I think when you're running,
did you always know you wanted a big business? Did you always have that exit in mind, even in the early days?
We spoke about it a lot, and it was the natural. I always Paul and I always used to speak about the story had to end at some point, because we were what we had at Staffgroup was, obviously it was privately owned, no external investment, but we were a really strong contracts recruitment company with high average margins, circa 500 sterling per week per contractor, and we had 450 odd runners of that ilk, and there weren't many companies in the professional arena like that. So there were a few, but there weren't many. So we always kind of knew that maybe there was a resilience in our income. If we did badly, we still made quite a lot of money. So it would be a good investment for someone. So I think, we had an idea, but we weren't on the market when we sold. We were approached, which was interesting. But we'd gone through a process before, I think 2012, so 3 years before we actually sold, with another staffing firm who tried to buy us. So we weren't. That in many ways was quite a good grounding for the actual process, because selling your business is selling your baby in a way. So it was a great experience. Staff group was great. Loads of great memories, loads of great stories, and a lot of people from that company have set up their own business now. Actually,
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So, as a leader and founder of a growing business, the one that does achieve what probably everyone sets out to achieve, really. I mean, there's some that don't want to sell and grow. There's they just love the cash and the lifestyle. But
yeah.
so many that listen to my show will be the ones that want to emulate you. I want to get into like how, not the kind of overarching numbers, but the how you did it. Like as a person, like what do you think separated you, Mark, from founders that maybe can't achieve that? Like what do you think you did that allowed you to continually grow the business?
I think that we had a good team because it's never down to one person. So we had a good team. Paul and
You
I
have to
were.
find the team. You
Yeah,
have to
we
build the
did.
team.
It started though from Paul and I, and we worked well together. We were good friends then. We're good friends now. And I've spoken to a lot of people since and a bit during who did it as a two, so set up a company as a two, and there have been fallouts or different directions people wanted to go down, but fundamentally, Paul and I had the same sort of values, and we were both always kind of heading in the same direction. If we disagreed or fell out, it was very, very brief. And we were bulletproof. We were, you couldn't really get in the way of our relationship, if you like. We had each other's backs, and then we we put together a team over time, but it isn't linear. It doesn't go seamlessly. You make some mistakes along the line. You back the wrong people, but you've got to take people who've got the same, I suppose, or similar values to you, and who are ambitious. And we were fairly relentless characters. I think we pushed people really, really hard, and I think one of the things that Paul and I have got then, and I think we've got it now, is we are never satisfied. We're all about being better tomorrow.
Yeah,
We can come in and do a really good month, and we act like we've got nothing.
I'm the same though. I'm not saying I'm anywhere near your level in any way, but I can totally empathize with that. Me and Anna, my business partner, we're never satisfied, and it's actually quite disheartening sometimes. You speak to someone, family or friends, and they're like, "You just had a fucking amazing month. Look what you've achieved this year," but you're like, "Well, so what? Like, where can we go next?" Which is, do you think that's healthy though? Is that a healthy way?
It can't, because it takes a toll on people. So my wife will say to me, you can be quite hard to live with, with that type of mindset, because you're always thinking about improvements. You're always thinking about how you could be better tomorrow. But that living with someone like that isn't easy. So no, I don't think it is always a great quality, but there's no doubt about it. In business, it does make you really, really good. I think that, one thing I would say is, however much money Paul and I were earning, and Paul and I earned well on the way up, which I think is something that isn't spoken about in podcasts of recruitment companies that I've listened to, but I think it's really important. And I give, when people ask me for advice, I do give advice for that. If you are only looking to exit your staffing business, you have a problem. You've got to earn well, live a good life. You've got to be aspirational on the way up. And I think some recruitment, founders, they will have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad quarter, and they wear their face. And that's a phrase that I use a lot. So they wear their face on the floor, and I'm thinking, okay, you might have had dropouts or whatever it may be, but the guy or girl who's been in your business for 2 or 3 months will see you. They will see you looking stressed. They will see you looking miserable, and they won't aspire to be where you are. And I think you've got to get people to want to have that lifestyle, who want to feel as much as they can the sort of footsteps that you're walking in. So I think that's a really, really important thing as well.
Love that. I've never really, no one ever has talked about how much they've earned along the way. And how do you come to those decisions with Paul? Like, how do you decide how much you do pay yourselves on the way?
Well, you've got to watch the cash. You've got to keep a very tight eye on the cash, and I think that's something. I think everyone knows that at the beginning, but then maybe year 3, 4, 5, when you've got other people in those departments that you don't know. But I think if you're making, let's say you're making, I don't know, 2 million net profit in a year, you probably, I don't know, good corporate governance would be to leave at least half of that in the business. But that's being generous. You could probably take a bit more than that. But you've got to earn on the way there, because what we found in 2012 was when we had this other organization that came to buy us, and it got as far as they put an offer on the table. We were earning good money, but it wasn't life-changing money. And when the deal, we pulled out of the deal because of the way they wanted to stage the payments. We looked at it, and I think that was a key point in our journey, because we then thought, okay, we really wanted this because we were focusing on this headline number that they had set rather than the way it was going to get paid. So after that point, from 2012 to 2015, we earned pretty well. And, you know, if you're looking for figure, I would say at least taking half of what you make, you know, net profit wise, before tax is probably what I would say would be safe. And then look, if you sell, great, but you don't have to. You don't have to sell it.
Would it look bad on you from the buyer that you're taking out 50% of net profit every year?
No, we use it as a negotiating tool. We would say that if you walk away into the sunset and if nothing else happens, fine. You know, our life is perfectly good as it was. You know, I wasn't coming into the office on Fridays. At that point, I wasn't expected to, particularly. I would go out, you know, I'd come up to the office on Fridays if I was going out socially, maybe on a Friday. You know, that's the sort of arrangement. My life was good. You know, at least it felt good at the time. You know, so I didn't need the deal. So we would say that.
What was your routine like at that point when you built the business? What would a day look like in your world?
So we would get into the office. I'd get there for about 8:20. You'd have internal meetings. My days were slightly different because a lot of my kind of role was to run Germany. So I would typically on a Monday to Wednesday, not every week, but a lot of weeks, maybe 2 weeks in 3. I would go to Berlin on a Monday morning from Gatwick Airport and get over there. So then I'd come back on maybe a Wednesday evening or Wednesday, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Go up to London on the Thursday. That was often a lot of my routine, and then would have internal meetings, you know, on a Thursday. So that was a similar thing. But before that, when I wasn't going to Germany so much, it would be internal meetings on with the various departments, with the internal recruitment team, with the operations team, with Paul a lot. Go at lunch to the gym, or Paul and I would often go for a run. You know, around South Bank, you know, it's nice around there. And I say run, but it would be a jog, would be more
trundling along the road.
trundling along the road. So so we would do that, and then similar in the afternoon, and then, you know, leave the office at 5, something like that. But a lot of it was internal meetings. I wasn't at all client focused or anything like that. But it wasn't hard. It wasn't particularly hard because, you know, a lot of the people were reasonably good at their jobs. You'd get internal, you know, a lot of internal, sometimes disputes about the sales side of things, about territories and stuff like that. But nothing. I'm sure that goes around, you know, all recruitment companies all around the Europe and stuff.
Okay, so to conclude on this bit, sorry, Mark. Got a right cough. To conclude on this bit, what I've learned from this is when you're on the way up, you guys were relentlessly investing in people and pushing people, you know. By the way, we just had a few comments. We've had Sid Barnes has just said hello. We've got a guy who works for Understanding Recruitment, but sourcing and listening in. Guys, whoever of you are listening, please feel free to ask us some questions. It pops up on my screen, and I'll ask Mark whatever you want, within reason. You know, if you're going to put him on the spot, I'm not going to do that. So you know, on the way up, you've got to invest in others. You're spending like your week is designed to put time into other people, be there for others, but at the same time, you're taking money so that you've actually got a great lifestyle. So the vision of exit becomes advantageous, but not everything. You're not
Yeah.
completely reliant on it, right? That's a really I've never thought about it that way.
Well, I think if you're a superstar employee in recruitment, and again, this isn't spoken about enough. What's your ceiling financially? What are you really going to earn? I mean, I'd say there's plenty of people earning 100,000 a year. You get to 150 to 200,000 for obvious reasons. There are not that many people as employees earning that level of money, but it is possible.
I got to in London, I've 192,000 I earned in my third year.
Yeah.
Which was
and how many people, who you worked as employees were earning over $250,000? I would suggest probably not many.
I don't think I've ever met anyone.
It's really hard. It's really hard to do that. So, that was the key thing that kind of my takeaway was that if you're running a business, I think you need to try and breach that 250 earning level, getting between 250 to say 500. That's what I think is a really good income for a recruitment owner. And it's something that then if you are surrendering that, and if you are selling that, and if you're staying on in the business, you possibly won't, or probably won't be able to earn that much money. It's something that you will be hesitant about walking away. And when you come to sell, or if you ever in that situation, you shouldn't be desperate. It shouldn't be something that if it falls through, you will be depressed about. It should be, great. It's someone else's turn to take over the story.
I think the people that probably are so desperate are the ones that are working still, like leading it, they're owning everything, and they're the ones that are less likely to sell because they are involved in everything.
Yeah.
So when you had leaders in those roles, and you were flying to Germany or in the UK, like what were they actually asking you? What value were you bringing at that point? Because they're running divisions.
It's not as much as you like. Everyone has an ego and they like to think that they are business critical. But we also knew that before selling, that unless you want the buyer to buy what is a good company, and if you are involved in everything, then it isn't necessarily a good company if you're not there. So it's some of it's keeping people in check, some of it is managing egos, because some of the better salespeople do have huge egos, and it's making sure that you're involved in people's worlds, you're involved in people's challenges, being involved. So in my case, it would be involved in things like promotion, interview / meetings. I was still trying to interview people for the company. And I think that job of interviewing people for your company, it does become such a big chunk of your role. I would say that, on leaving for Paul and for it was often 30% of our week, if you were to allocate the hours, was on interviewing people for your company. And I do think that's important, because I think that if there is that quality control check and you are really front of house, representing your business, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. We talked briefly before the show as well about you had years at Staffgroup where the turnover was so high, even though you were hiring all the time. It was like a leaky bucket, right? People coming in, people leaving. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, we won a lot of awards. We had a really strong marketing team. We had a really strong learning and development team, ran by some fantastic people. And I think that we would be winning awards sometimes, and I'd be thinking there's a lot to improve upon this business. And I think one year I remember 2008. I looked at 2011, every single hire that we made in 2008, and I think we had like one or two people still with the business. We'd hired 55 people, something like that, in the year, and lost 53. Not all of them. It wasn't quite as linear as that, but eventually they all left the business 3 years later, and we'd be winning awards and that. And when you reflect upon, when you sell the business, that if you've got a high staff turnover, there is a problem within your business that you need to understand and that you need to analyze. And I look at recruitment companies now, and I think a lot of recruitment companies, or the vast majority of recruitment companies, are doing really well. Everyone's posting about record months, and that's great. But what distinguishes a great recruitment company from an average or from a good recruitment company is the staff turnover. If you are losing people left, right, and centre, particularly voluntary leavers, where they are choosing to leave of their own free will, there is a problem in your company, and when the market turns or whatever, it will become something that you will need to deal with. So that's for me.
What did you do to fix it?
I think in Staffgroup, Paul and I used to kind of discuss this, and it was in London, which was principally where most of the staff were joining. People had a lot of other options, and we spoke about the reality of what was life like for a recruitment consultant in our firm, and they would be typically earning 45,000, which was all right, but it's not necessarily life-changing sums of money by any stretch. And in London, you'll know, having lived there, it doesn't necessarily go that far away. And we would lose a lot of people to not to other recruitment companies. I think we were always really strong on that. It would just be they wanted to just do something different. So did we ever really conquer it? I don't know if we did, to be honest with you. I don't think that we got maybe a bit better at it by being a little bit more selective about who we hired and having more, slightly more processes. But what really helped us, I think, was going to Germany, whereby we went to Berlin. There's quite a few recruitment companies in Berlin now, but there wasn't when we were there. I think I really think it was Robert Half, Michael Page, and then of the privately recruitment firms, we would be probably one of the next biggest ones, and that really helped because there was less people to compete with for the talent and less options for them to go to. But I think pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, I think setting a recruitment company up in London was then and possibly is now is challenging. Because there are so many other options. There are more options probably than any other place in Europe for people to go to. So I think
probably in the world. I don't think there's a city.
It feels like that. It feels like that. And maybe
I've got a couple of questions coming through. I just want to address them now. So Connor Broderick says, good morning. Have you got any advice specifically for starting up? So he must be either he's starting up or he knows someone is. Like, I guess, what's the first thing you would logically say to someone who's starting up a business right now?
Why do you want to start up? That would be the very first question I would ask them. And this is something I'm quite big about. What is your why? Why are you looking at starting it up? Is it lifestyle? Is it for financial reasons? Is it because there is no company to employ you that you are looking up to? But you've got to be very honest with yourself, and you've got to tell someone who is a confident partner, parent, sibling, best friend, your real truth, your why. And then I would say to them, if you're still a yes on that, then work out your expenditure, right? Everything you're spending for the first in a month, work out what you can cut, and then make sure you've got enough money for no income for a year. If you're not at that stage, I wouldn't even bother doing it. But that is the thing that you want to do, because you want to be able to just be completely immersed in your business. You don't want to be thinking about when a client is going to be paying you and that sort of thing. I also think work out if you want to do it on your own. Do you want to do it with someone else? I think if you look at most staffing companies that have had a degree of success, there aren't many people who did it on their own. There are some, but they're in the minority.
You're right. You're bang on.
And also, is it going to be a contract business or a perm business? If it's going to be a contract business, cash flow will be a bit of an issue in the first year. It will be a little bit feast and famine. If it's permanent, then you should be able to get money quicker. And if you're not a permanent person, I'd possibly partner with someone who is.
Yeah, it makes sense. I love that. Craig said, at the early stage, how did you identify the individual recruiters that would fit your vision, and has it adjusted your views on what makes a good recruiter as attitudes have changed?
First of all, did I like them? It was the most important thing. Were they someone you could be comfortable spending a lot of time with? That would be a fundamental one. It would be looking at sort of lateral thought processes, common sense, seeing the angles, that sort of individual, and again, what their why was. Why are they here? If it didn't work out, what would be the reason for that? Did their family want them to go into this line of work. It's what was their degree, and I think that's the fundamental. I think you look for different things from sort of 0 to 20, where perhaps you can take less risk. You've got to be. I do think at that point you probably go for culture fits, and then my big thing is from sort of 20 headcount and above, go for culture adds. Go for people who are a little bit different to you. Yes, we all like the graduate with a 2-1 degree from a top 20 university who's got a sporty background, be it male or female. I think that's a type in recruitment that is deemed probably a relatively safe fit. But after that, I do think it's about maybe slightly different types of characters who can really add to your business.
Makes sense. Love it. Well, what I want to get into now is the more personal side of your life, Mark. So you've just mentioned briefly, up on the way up over 12 years, your wife probably said to you, you're a very difficult man to live with. Tell us just, what is your family like? Like, what's your responsibilities outside of work? How is your life set up?
So I've got, live in Sussex. I've got 3 children. 2 of them are teenagers. The youngest one is 11, about to be 12. Married for just about 20 years, which is bloody ages. So I mean, my responsibilities are that I've got a brother, I've got a sister, a father, mother not with us anymore. So they're kind of my people in my immediate circle that you look out for. I've got nieces, nephews, and I think it's an interesting one. So my 2 older children who are 15, about to be 16, and my daughter is 14. They're at boarding schools, sort of public schools. So in Surrey, in my case. So I've got one. The youngest one lives with us Monday to Friday, and the older 2 come home at the weekends. Mm-hmm. So I think that for me, my routine and my world is quite strong. I can have a little bit of order because I'm in control of it a little bit, sort of non-school times. When it gets to the holidays is when it can be a little bit of a challenge, because you're a little bit pulled in different directions, and with 3 children, obviously, you're outnumbered. And we live a little bit in the middle of nowhere, so there is a reliance on a car, and they're all below sort of driving age at the moment, so they can choose to live here. So there's an element you've got to help them. What helps my life at the moment? I'm probably I'm pretty happy to be fair, is that with EngTal, that's based on Chicago time, so 6 hours time difference. I'm pretty much not really thinking about work too much before 1:30 in the afternoon. And that's really good, because from 1:30 to 2, from 1:30 2 p.m. in the afternoon to about 11 p.m. I'm kind of on the clock. I'm kind of getting messages, and I'm preoccupied at the very best. But before that period of time, it's great, and I know where I am. Kids know where, kids know if they're at home. What we could do something in the holidays where I don't know, go to a driving range to hit some golf balls around or something like that. So it works quite well, and I'm quite used to it now.
Okay, so let's go back to when you were at the staff group then. So I imagine it was a bit different. Kids were younger. Yeah. Were they in any form of boarding primary school, or were they?
No. They really started sort of boarding in their teens, but no, they weren't. So yeah, they were younger. That was tougher at times, because you'd be going, to Berlin, or going on easy. Yeah. It would always be EasyJet, and honestly, I developed a hatred of the color orange, because there was no amount of money that you could do to make that journey any better than it was. No real food on board or anything like that. Quite cramped, often delayed, which was my kind of thing. But you'd be saying goodbye to the kids on a Monday, and then potentially, depending on when you come back, if you came back on, say, Wednesday evening, you wouldn't really see them again until Thursday. And then I'd be going to London on Thursday in the morning, some maybe before they're awake. So it could be Thursday evening before you see them. So it's a pressure on your spouse, on your partner.
Yeah. How did your wife cope with that?
She would say she raised the kids single-handedly, and how well she has done. But no, It's tough. You know, everyone talks about sort of working mum guilt, and that's very right and that's very true. But there is also another under discussed topic about fathers who work, who don't see their young children, and that's tough as well. So, you know, but everything's a little bit of a sacrifice. I felt I needed to do that because you need to get something off the ground in the first 2 or 3 years, and that's what I did. And it wasn't every week. It was, you know, it was a reasonable amount of weeks. But another thing Paul and I did at Staffgroup, which is, you know, allied to the kind of earning money on the way up, you know, we took good holidays. We weren't having 20 days holiday a year. It was probably, maybe in my case, nearer to sort of 35, 40, which gave you the quality time to perhaps make up for it on the other side.
Right. And would you, one topic I'm interested in is communication, right? So like, think about a good recruitment business. You've got to have a really strong communication plan with your teams, with your leaders, with your business partner. You have meetings each week. You openly to discuss issues, challenges, things that are on the horizon, developments. Have you ever adopted a similar methodology at home?
No, not like that. I think with home, it's about giving time, isn't it? It's making time for the people that matter. I think, you know, with your wife or husband, you know, having dinner together, you know, once or twice a week is really, really important. But I think, no, I didn't have a particular plan with communication or anything like that, but you've got to whether it's telephone calls, it doesn't have to be face to face. You've just got to kind of make sure you know what's going on with the other person's life. And I think most relationships break down, in my opinion, through a lack of communication. You know, whoever
crazy,
that may be with.
It's crazy that we invest so much into the models of how we communicate at work. You know, we've got channels, we've got meetings, we have agendas, and you know, it's all about being open. And yet at home, we just, like you say, there's nothing wrong with what you've said, but I'm not convinced most, including myself in the past, have put anywhere near as much of emphasis on the communication at home. We've just been almost like that. Well, that'll just take care of itself if I'm there. Whereas work, it's like, it's constantly all about improvement and development. And it's mad, really, isn't it?
But it's turning stuff down as well. You know, so let's say, I don't know, on a Thursday in London, I think certainly my company, you know, they would all be going out on a Thursday evening. You didn't even need to ask; it was happening. Sometimes you've got to say no. Sometimes you've got to say, you know, it might be okay. So let's get some food in. I don't know, steak or whatever it might be on a Thursday night, and whatever happens, I will be there for this, you know, meal, and then you can chat. And I think it's really important. I think that, you know, communication and it's making time for people is absolutely crucial.
Do you think? Can you remember any times you think you got that wrong, where you didn't get it?
They'd have been plenty. I can't think of any specific times, but there'd have been plenty. I mean, and there would have been, you know, perhaps in the earlier days whereby you're meant to be coming home and then one drink becomes, you know, 2, 3, or 4. You're carried away with the emotion of the, you know, the experience. You know, in my case, maybe I'd be going to Berlin and I'd be. When you're staying in a hotel, you know, this is for most people I know who are traveling at whatever role they have in the company. You don't stay in your hotel room necessarily on a Tuesday evening watching Netflix. You know, you go out for dinner and you might come home jaded. You might come home not wanting to communicate too much. Also, your trip may have not gone very well. You know, there may have been things that you've seen that you perhaps don't like. You're traveling overseas to all these different sites. It doesn't go swimmingly. There's different cultures involved. There's a different, wherever you set up, and we only really did Germany, but you know, there are challenges over there, but I'm sure there's similar but different challenges in the Netherlands or France or Belgium or wherever. So it's just not taking work home from you, and I'm not very good at that. I'm still not perfect at it. I brood. You know, I get there, and I brood. You know, something I can very easily find something that's gone wrong, and I'm a very self-critical person, and I still am a little bit. I spin it a little bit that I'm accountable, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've done okay, because I'm very comfortable saying sorry. I'm very comfortable about looking at myself in the mirror, and I think some people are not. But the same time, you can beat yourself up about things a little bit, and you've got to be present. That's something I probably learned, reflected on the last few years. If you're with your children, whether it's reading a story if they're young, or if you're, even if you're playing a video game with them or whatever, you've got to be involved a little bit. And I think my children would say there were long periods of time where I was not present with them, and they're right as well.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Can you still achieve all the things you achieved and still be? I mean, I don't. It's just you've sacrificed. Now that you're doing it again, I know you're not as hands-on in EngTal and it's a different time zone and stuff. But how much different is your life now, and how much more balanced is it?
It's really good. Chris is doing a really good job there. He runs the business, making day and just most the decisions during the day. He runs things by me a little bit. We talk constantly through the various media, but he is the figurehead. He's the CEO of the business, and I'll probably do, I don't know, 4 or 5 Zooms a day. So I'm reasonably involved with the different people within the business. I tend to help out a lot with the helping of the closing of the candidate. So that is a bit I enjoy actually the most. It's a permanent marketplace. The fees are quite big, so it's quite exciting from that perspective.
Do you still have like a little bit of recruitment in like?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I also, I know I love it. I'm not ashamed to say I love it. I've done other things, got involved with a sort of an Instagram as an investor, sort of social media company, which is doing quite well. But I'm not involved. I love a lot of the people in recruitment. I love watching them on their journey, and I'm quite authentic, I'm trying to be quite authentic when I say it, because I really want them to come in and do well. But it's worked quite well. I mean, the pandemic, if anything, we probably had quite a good pandemic. That even from the start, because we've worked, with the Zoom communications and the Teams communications, it's worked pretty well. I'm very happy it's over, and I think in Chicago now they're working in a kind of hybrid model where they're in 3 days a week. But they're a nice bunch, and they're doing. I like the journey that company's going on. I've set myself some own challenges. Can I play a role in getting that company to be bigger than Staffgroup from a gross profit perspective and net profit perspective, headcount perspective, those sorts of things, which are kind of challenges I need to set to myself to keep myself interested. But I think
sorry to interrupt there, but if you took that away now, if you took that purpose, that influence away, would that send you back to a similar moment to when you exited last time? You'd be lost a bit, do you think?
Yeah, there is a bit of a fear of that, and one of the things I've said to people in the company, I don't want to sell this business, unless ill health prompts it, and you can never take health for granted. But I don't want to sell this business. I'm enjoying it, and I've seen the other side a little bit, whereby you are a little bit lost, and I'm not. What I saw on the other side was that people would know you'd be around during the day. Let's say they'd resigned or they were at a loose end. You'd be the person they'd be calling for the boozy lunch, because they know you'd be present, and that's a slippery road to go down. If you're starting to, I don't know,
wow, that's a really interesting point.
Well, if you're starting to drink on during the day on a Tuesday, then it can set up the week to fail or not go ideally. So I like the fact that it gives me a reason to be awake. And I'm approaching EngTal from a slightly different perspective, in the sense that if EngTal goes bust tomorrow, it's not going to make any financial it's not going to particularly financially kill me or anything like that. But it would obviously upset me, and it would upset a lot of the people in it. So I'm enjoying it. I don't pay myself a base salary. Don't think I ever will, because I don't need to. and it's really good watching people blossom and to find their best selves. And just, I think when you're setting up a recruitment company where there isn't that financial pressure over you, you can take things slightly differently. You don't get carried away by the highs, you don't get necessarily too carried away by the lows. You can take a slightly more linear view of things. You can take a view on things. I've had people who haven't done a deal for first 4 months or something like that, and do you know what, you don't have to fire them. You can work with them to get them better if their attitude is right. So it's working really well. I was over there a couple of weeks ago, so I'm pleased that we went to the Ryder Cup in the US, and that was wonderful to spend time with all of them. And I'm really looking forward to when travel is going to get a little bit better, then be fairly easy to go over, and for the people from the UK to go over as well.
Makes sense. Obviously, we spoke when the Euros was on. You've just been to the Ryder Cup, so is attending sporting events something that's important to you, and being out and about at these types?
I think so. I think that the pandemic was, you reevaluate things, don't you? You think about what you enjoy and what you love. And I like sport. I love, football is probably the main one I like. But I always said to you before, I went to the Euros. I did that with family.
I know, I was jealous. So jealous.
Yes. Semis and the semis of the final. The final was a little bit moody, actually, to go with your kids and walking on broken glass, squidge everywhere down Wembley way. Went to the Ryder Cup, which was fantastic. We took 7 of our performers, and the course was like a couple of miles from, 3 hours from Chicago, so it was feasible, and it was an opportunity to go to. There was about, I don't know, I saw probably 25 European fans over the whole weekend, so you were very much in the minority. So Chris, who's British, and I were kind of very much giving it our best, but we got absolutely trounced. So that's good, and I'd probably like to go to the Super Bowl in Los Angeles early next year. That would be another thing that I'd like to do. So you kind of doing those.
When it comes to your own self, then, like, obviously it's kind of work related, kind of family related, but do you have a kind of a strategy over the year which says, like, this is how I'm gonna look after myself, like, this is the types of things I want to do that I'm going to enjoy, these are the hobbies I've got, do you think like that, like longer term?
I do a little bit, and I manage like that as well, but I also manage myself. So I would say, right, you're starting off in January or whatever. What does a good year look like for you? What does a good year look like for me? And I don't care who you are. The first thing is the health, the safety of you and your loved ones, which this pandemic has taught us we absolutely cannot take for granted. And then you go down, what does a good year professionally look like? And one of the things I say to the staff is, okay, so if I'm to call you telephone you up in 12 months time, or it could be 2 years time, and you are professionally happy, what does professionally happy look like? Talk about what that looks like. How does that affect your personal life? What goals do you have? Do you want to buy a property? Do you want to move to a certain area? Let's talk about all of these things. That was
such a good question, by the way. I'm going to use that. That.
Well, it talks about what good looks like, if you like, but from a whole life perspective. So I think, you plan out things that you want to do, places you want to travel, and I think that's a lot of people. Traveling has been something that gave us so much joy, whether it's going to a capital city in Europe for the weekend, or going to the Dubai or the Caribbean or America, wherever it might be. And it's something that I guess all of us, next year, hopefully will want to kind of almost rectify the lost time that we've had. But it's so important to look at what good looks like for your life as much as anything else.
Yeah. And when it comes to health, what's important to you? Like, how do you focus? What do you focus on?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're trying to do at the moment at EngTal is there's so many incentives, and the rewards for doing well is with alcohol, and we are no different to that. We will do the cliched lunch clubs and quarterly incentives and team nights out on a smaller level, like that. But it's also really important, I think, to have health and wellness. We've got a health and wellness manager within the firm, whose responsibility is a little bit to look after the employee well-being. But we've got like steps challenges this month. We've mixed it up where you're given a pair, kind of a random pair, and it's the two people who do the most steps in the company win a $350 voucher for something to spend on health and wellness. My routine is, I'm quite cardio. I do Peloton is kind of my thing. So I've been doing Peloton for literally when it first came out. I've got the trainer, I've got the bike. Yeah, so I will do 45 to 50 minutes of cardio a day. I will do a dog walk before that for about 45 minutes. I will then do weights, say focusing on a muscle group. And so that, but I can do all that in the morning because I've kind of got that.
Yeah. You got the time.
Free time, and by 11:30, showered, ready for the day, and doing that. And I think from a mental side of things, this is something I've kind of brought in the last few months is reading a book during the day, which again I can do because of the way my days are managed. And what I've found, a tweak I've made this year was, I'm more attracted to sort of business books or sporting autobiographies, the classical sort of stereotype, but I'm trying to read fiction for half an hour during the day for escapism, putting phone away, not bothered about Teams messages or social media or people WhatsApping you or something like that, and really just getting rid of the noise and just escaping into some character's work. And that's been brilliant for me. Carry my Kindle around with me, if I'm in the house, in my bag if I'm moving from different rooms, so it's kind of always there with me. So I think that's really, really important. And I think social media is with us. It's big, and I've got two teenagers as well. It's trying to sometimes just get away from that noise. Just getting your devices away, turning them off. I think WhatsApp groups, there's too many WhatsApp groups. How many WhatsApp groups is everyone involved in? And there's that beep thing of WhatsApps, and I'm pretty guarded. I don't want to be in too many of them. It's you want to, because it's a distraction, isn't it? It's noise that takes you away from the moment and from whatever you're doing.
It's mad. Even my whole business is built around LinkedIn and promoting people on LinkedIn and teaching them how to spend time. But it's really about how to use that time effectively and not spend all day scrolling. I give myself about an hour a day now on there, and I deleted the phone app. And, I think you can be really productive in an hour or so a day on LinkedIn. You can get what you need from it. But then I scrapped Instagram and Facebook. I've deleted WhatsApp groups. I've muted the ones that I don't want to delete. I'm the same. I think, because we only have a certain amount of attention a day. And I think your willpower and your energy drains as the day goes on, right? So if you can protect your mind and protect your decisions and protect your stimulus as much as possible to what's really important, you feel better at the end of the day. Whereas if you waste too much time reading shit that you don't need, you're drained. And then the people that need you, and you're not the same. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got this phrase, and I've been using it for a few years now. Don't be a busy fool. And I use that to myself. I sometimes will use it to those close to me, and it's an element of telling people what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. But so many, we waste time now, and looking at social media for hours at an end or whatever is wasting time. In recruitment, it might be looking at LinkedIn, but not necessarily looking at and reading what's on LinkedIn. It's just surfing LinkedIn. And it's exactly what you said. You've got to be efficient. You've got to view yourself as you're worth something, to yourself, to maybe to the company you work at or whatever, and just making sure that you're not a busy fool. You know what you're doing.
Mark, it's been a pleasure. That's an hour, but I can't believe how fast that's gone.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
We could be chatting forever. I think there's been some great questions. I hope people who've been tuned in live have enjoyed it. Obviously, there's a lot of people listening back. What I'd like to say is, look, let's definitely keep in touch and think about bringing you back on in the future. I think,
definitely.
for me, the takeaways of that session was that one question actually, where you said, "What in 12 months' time? What did you say? What does success professionally look like?"
Yeah, what your profession? If I was to phone you in 12 months' time and you are professionally happy, what does that look like? Describe it to me. And then just let the individual speak, and also ask yourself, what does that look like? Write it down, put it at the end if you've got a pad or wherever you write your notes, or notes on your phone, put it down there and then refer to it constantly. Well, not constantly, but like every month.
Amazing. Sorry. And the other thing was that, actually the other side of selling isn't as bright as people think. There's actually a darker side to it, that for people like you and hopefully myself and others that are driving forward all day, there's an emptiness that comes from exit that perhaps
loneliness at times. And
there's also like there's going to be a second chapter. There's always going to be another chapter, because you got too much to give to just pack it in, right? If anyone does want to reach out to you, is LinkedIn the best place to drop you a quick DM? And say
for sure, definitely LinkedIn.
There's been a few people in the comments already saying thanks. Mark, it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for listening live today. As I said to you before, this will be live on my profile now, like for the future, and then it will go live on Spotify and Apple from Monday at 6:00. I'll see you again next Thursday at 12:00.
Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hoxo Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. Tune in again next week. That's live on LinkedIn at 12 p.m. on Thursday, or you can catch the show on the following Monday from 6 a.m. on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll see you soon.